hey everyone out there, and welcome to KPC Underground. Aaron here, and I am so excited today to be with Tim here from Ivan and Alyosha, who are playing tonight at KPC. And I have to say, before we start out, well, first of all, thank you for being here.
It is a pleasure.
Yes, and I heard your sound check. Sounds amazing. And I have to say, we met, a few months back when we were both involved in this choir for a mutual friend of ours, Alex Shaw, who was playing who has the voice of an angel and is just a talented little young whippersnapper out there doing his thing.
I love him so much.
I love him and I hate him because he's too talented. It's kind of not fair. And when I found out how old he was, I was like, curses, bleep, bleep, bleep. No, but we did this choir thing at KEXP, and that was a lot of fun. And
such
then
a good time.
It was like a few months later, we ran into each other at Safeway.
Yes,
just in our ordinary lives, and that was fun too. And
wheeling around in the veggie aisle.
Are you from up there in Edmonds, where I'm from? Then you must be, because you were at Safeway up there.
Yeah, grew up in Mill Creek.
Okay.
I would say, I went to high school in kind of Edmonds shoreline area, and then for the last, I don't know, I suppose my wife and I have been married for 17-ish years now, so we chose Edmonds early on. We love it.
Is your band your day job? Are you doing this full time, or are you balancing that between other things?
That's a good question. It is part of what I do, and I would say there's all sorts of irons in the fire.
Yeah.
I'll go sing at auctions. I'll go sing at fundraisers. I'll go sing at churches. I'll go sing at funerals.
So like
weddings,
work for hire music stuff, along with like doing your own original stuff as well. Yeah.
So I sing, mainly play in a lot of different environments throughout the week.
Right.
Lead music at my kids' school and stuff like that.
Right.
So, I've kind of we all fight pretty hard to just do that.
Right.
That's what we're doing right now.
It is a grind, I mean, having to, I'm a musician. I never really did it as like I always had something else I was doing. I never went full on, okay, I'm going to be an artist now, and I guess that's what I'm doing 24/7. It always seemed like it's just too much. It's such hard work. You can do it casually and you're just doing it for fun. And if you start doing it at any level of career, I mean, this, it's like, it's a grind. It's a lot of work, and you have to really want it to be able to do it. So, yeah. I
think I was talking to somebody about this week that once you do have to make money at it, it can sometimes, it can take the joy out of it.
Right.
At the same time, kind of flipping that on its head, like finding things that are meaningful, that are different. Even going on this, playing some shows with Brett Dennen, it's just a duo. It's not the full band thing.
Right.
So I feel like it has to stay interesting. You have to things have to stay fresh. So I feel like as we have to kind of make money at it, we also have to find things that resonate with us. It can't just be the same old,
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's like you get paid in different ways. You know what I mean? It's like you can get paid in money, but the cliche of you're getting paid in exposure, but really it's I feel that though. I feel that personally because I get paid in the just creative satisfaction of doing the work. The work itself is rewarding, its own. Just getting to like be up on a stage and sing just by itself, without anyone in the audience or whatever appreciating you or patting you on the back. That is its own reward, and I'm sure you resonate with that too. But
we always joke around too that like people don't pay indie rock bands.
Yeah.
But they'll give you free stuff.
Yeah.
All day long.
Right.
It's like,
you got to leverage that.
You want tickets? We'll give you tickets. You want jeans? We'll give you jeans.
Right. Oh,
you want shoes? We'll give you shoes. We won't pay you to play.
But we'll give you jeans and shoes.
I'm kind of joking.
Right. So tell me about your band. You know, for those people who are new to your band, your name isn't Ivan and Ryan's name isn't Alyosha. Where did that name? I know the answer to this, but where did that name come from, and what's that all about, and how do you relate to that specifically, or do you?
We started this band in 2007. I think we were in LA recording our first EP with our buddy Eli Thompson, who now he plays bass for Father John Misty, and produced Nathaniel Rateliff.
Oh, cool.
Delta Spirit, a lot of Delta Spirit stuff. Anyways, we worked on our first EP with him, and he is like a big Dostoevsky fan. Yeah. So many years ago, we had a show we were playing, and we needed a band name.
It was just like we need
Ivan
something.
and Alyosha sounded like Belle and Sebastian to me, which I was into at the time.
It does. I mean, I think the first time I saw it, that was sort of what I thought.
You call it bougie.
Yeah. It is a bougie. It's a bougie name. Let's be honest, it's a bougie name.
Literature.
It's and you got to know. It's like I haven't read the Brothers Karamazov, so I don't really know the reference. I did read up on it a little bit.
Yeah,
and it's like one of them believes in God and the other one doesn't, and only one of them can be right, and it's this whole sort of philosophical, mind game and war of like who do you relate to or whatever, and both of them are right in different ways or whatever it is. So
and I think at the time, like maybe the direct kind of parallel was to our lives. It was Ryan, it was me. We are very different people, and Eli was kind of. Again, drawing some comparisons to the characters in the book.
Trying to make it really dramatic and sound cool, which it does.
Well, and he smoking a cigarette, and what about Ivan and Alyosha? Yeah. He has this like very stoic.
Hard to say no to that when
delivery.
When a guy says it like that and it sounds so cool, you're like, well, what are we supposed to do? You know.
And he's so cool. I feel like, I mean, just to give TMI, but back in the day, Eli, there was this guy, Richard Swift, playing music in Southern California. I feel like those guys, and Delta Spirit, Cold War Kids, all of those guys kind of coming up at the time. Yeah. We just kind of idolized that whole crew. So when Eli was like, I think I've got a band name idea for you. We were like, oh my gosh.
This is hard golden. To think. It's like it feels so self-absorbed to be like, oh, what's my band name? You know, I'm working on some pop stuff at the moment, and everything I come up with, I don't want to use my own name, and every band name I come up with just sounds like the cheesiest thing I've ever heard. And
it's hard.
I don't know how to do it, but
I really think like
I like yours.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I feel like I used to be a lot more this way, and I feel like I'm kind of coming back to this. But like everything, and it's exhausting, but everything has to mean something.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And like mean a lot.
Right.
And it has to be, I feel like that's kind of how we functioned. Like we slaved over the song titles, the band name, the record titles, the artwork, everything. It had to like come together. It was like, oh, that's it. Because, it was like, always kind of looking for that magic. So at best, I think at the time we thought it was just it.
Right. You know? Yeah, I like that. Sometimes it's just a gut thing. You know? I wanted to say, your voice is like really powerful. It's very sweet and beautiful, but also has this trumpeting sort of power, and you have this fast rolling vibrato that reminds me of like Roy Orbison and it's these classic kind of singers, but it is that indie rock thing. But it's got I hope that's a good comparison.
Oh my gosh,
for you. But I don't know.
Roy's
I was trying to place actually who there's a band I used to listen to all the time called The Alternate Roots. I don't know if you've ever heard of these guys. Their voice, I was trying to place it when I was listening to you, and I was like, oh, okay, yes, it's this, but it's that earnest. It has an earnestness to it too. You have a sense of like, oh man, I believe him. I believe what he's saying, kind of a thing. So, how did you? I guess my question with that, well, it's just a compliment first of all. I just want to say I love your voice, but also, how did you? The voice, obviously, other than an instrument, it is kind of its own instrument, and you have to develop it and, take care of it, and and what was the process for you coming up in like kind of finding your own voice, and sort of nurturing that and developing that?
Man, that's a really good question. I feel like I'm fortunate to still be doing it, and as you know, there's times where it's hard to keep moving.
Yeah,
to when something falls through, or there's disappointment, or even just the fact that we're human beings with imperfect bodies that don't work properly sometimes. Yep. I feel like I'm fortunate to be able to zoom out and go, oh man, when I was in kindergarten singing at the school choir, that was formative.
Right.
Church choir was formative. Playing Jimi Hendrix and Green Day covers in junior high, learning guitar, learning Nirvana songs, that was formative. Musically, vocally, going into a college classical program, singing in a jazz choir. I feel like for me, it's almost embarrassing that if we're getting better, we're always developing, we're always changing, we're always learning more about how to use what we have better, use my voice better. So I really feel like it goes back to singing New Kids on the Block in my garage as a kindergartner, to discovering new artists now who I hear them using their voice in unique and powerful ways.
Right.
Like a new one for me is the Mavericks. Raul Malo is their lead singer, and the older guys been around for a long time. Really powerful stuff. So just kind of being drawn, listening, learning from other vocalists, but also I feel like getting opportunities to do it my whole life.
Right.
So again, it's embarrassing to listen back and go, what was that? 15 plus years ago. Yeah.
I think, being somebody who shoots a lot of video and stuff like that, I think, and records, I've recorded a lot of bands and myself over the years. You got to get over that initial, cringe factor or whatever. It's like the cringe is strongest when it's ourselves, being played back, especially on a video where it's like, is that really how I hold my hands or whatever it is? And I think that's just part of being an artist, is getting over I think seeing yourself in that third person and going, okay, here's the things I can work on.
Right.
It doesn't. I don't have to hate myself in order to be like, oh, yeah, that sounds pretty good. Treat yourself like a friend would treat you, kind of a thing. and but that is a journey. It's it's a lifelong thing. And especially with kind of your voice and when you're trying to, I don't know, just develop that unique thing of what's my contribution, to the world. That's a lifelong thing. But
one thing that sparks in me is kind of recently thinking through when we first started out as a band, it was more about, I want to do this. Yeah. This is fun. It didn't matter necessarily that it was good. Right. But you wanted to do it. You wanted to participate in it, which is that enthusiasm. I love that. It's a junior higher picking up a guitar and learning whatever, a solo or it's electric, Now I feel like it's not so much about the enthusiasm, but it is about that. It is about proficiency. It's about protecting the craft. It's about protecting what I have developed or what has been developed in me, and being protective of that. Right. And knowing too, it's you can't take every opportunity that comes your way. You can't sing for 3 hours every night or whatever and and not get diminishing returns. So If that makes sense.
Sure.
Like,
yeah. Well, zooming out a little bit or zooming in, I'm not sure what the metaphor is.
A little bit of both.
But what do you have like a regimen for like? Do you drink tea with honey, or do you try to stay away from certain things, or do you know like, okay, I'm singing at this time. It's like no booze before. I learned for myself. I'm like only one drink before the show, max, or whatever, or whatever it is. Do you have any like regimented things or things you always do or stay away from?
I mean, rest.
Rest is good. That's big
as we
with the
get
voice.
older.
Yeah.
Drinking a lot of water. I think for me, I don't have a strict warm up kind of rhythm or whatever.
Sure.
But if I'm not singing a lot, like kind of stepping into whatever it is, singing in different environments throughout the week or recording or whatever.
Yeah.
I would say it's more about like being in kind of like general shape, like vocal health and shape, than it is some sort of like, I have to prepare.
Here's how
now.
I rev up the engine or whatever.
It's like an everyday kind of thing. But if we
Right.
go away for 2 weeks on vacation, I don't touch a guitar and I lose my calluses and I haven't sung. It's really hard to kind of get back
You
up.
lose it. Unfortunately, I relate to that too. It is not like riding a bike. I went through a season, or I've gone through several seasons of life where I'm just like I'm getting involved in work stuff or whatever, where I just like haven't sang in a while.
Yeah.
And you get back up there and you're like, you're like, oh, whoa! It's like it's not. I gotta like you can get it back, but it's not overnight. It's like you gotta.
You have to like break it again.
Yeah, you have to
a couple times.
Yeah, right.
And then
I wish it wasn't like that, but unfortunately that is the way it is. So yeah, that makes sense. Where it's like a car. If you leave it in your backyard, like it's gonna eventually like rust and die or whatever. So you gotta keep it on the road, and that's actually what's good for it. So that makes
keep
a lot of
it
sense.
on the road.
Keep it on the road. Eh?
I love that.
I don't want to take too much more of your time. I do want to talk about a couple things. One, your album, self-titled, that you released in 2020, October 2020. I can't really remember. Something was going on during 2020, but I think it was just your album. Your album came out.
It's the only thing.
But talk about that, and I also want to talk about the Benaroya Hall thing, and then album that also came out. You worked with a mutual friend of ours, also Andrew Jocelyn, who I know very well, and it's just like an absolute star and such a nice guy too. But talk about your album and releasing that in kind of, October 2020. We're in the throes of pandemic life and isolation and everything. And what was that? What was that experience like for you?
So we had signed with a new label, Network Music Group. We had this record. We actually shopped the record, and they said, "This is what we want to put out." We made it before we signed on with him.
Right.
So I know we had released a single or two, and then COVID hit. We had several weeks of tours planned and things.
Right.
The release of the record planned. Everything kind of obviously kept kicking the can down the road.
Right.
The release, the getting on the road.
Yeah.
And then at some point it was just like, it's maybe just not happening.
Right.
And we were either going to release the rest of the songs on the record as an EP, because there was a bunch of stuff that was already out.
Right.
Excuse me. Or put out the whole record.
Right.
And the label was like, let's put out the whole record.
Yeah.
We decided to release it as a self-titled record. And I would say it was such a long time coming, and then for COVID to kind of, certainly get in the way of a lot of things.
Yeah.
I still, at best, and I know this is wrong and cheesy and whatever, and this is Seattle, but I am who I am. I tend to think everything happens for a reason. And there's a lot of things that came out of, a lot of good that came out of that record, even if it was through COVID. And we printed a beautiful vinyl. Yeah. Andrew Jocelyn steps in during COVID and says, "Hey, I'm curating this series for the Seattle Symphony, with the Seattle Symphony, called the Essential Series. Would you guys want to collaborate on arrangements and a show with the symphony, play a lot of the new material?" Obviously, the answer was, oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah, sounds great.
So I would say even though COVID, it was very hard and so much went away for so many people, so many artists, people working in music, in film, in entertainment, in service industry, in retail, food, everything. Right. It was very hard, but I think for us, it was a moment where, at least for me, you know, kind of a fork in the road, like, we'll either go make money how other people make money.
Yeah.
Or we double down.
Right.
And we keep moving. So the symphony thing was a huge opportunity that came out of that. We did live streams for eBay and other Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, like a lot of like corporate opportunities coming in, and so just weird, cool stuff. We moved to Nashville for a year, just again like doubling down, like in a moment where, you know, the rubber meets the road. Do we hang it up,
right,
or do we try to move forward,
right? So,
I just, man, there was a lot of upside that came out of all of that that time.
Yeah, I love that. I resonate with, like, we at KPC when the pandemic happened. You know, Jeff Lockhart, the executive director, was kind of the same mind, where it was like, okay, are we just waiting this out, or are we gonna like do we have to do something? It was like there was a strong desire to, like, people are still out there. People still, like, there's still artists out there. There's still people out there who want to listen to music. So we kind of did that streaming series or whatever. But I mean, I love that you released the album, because it was like, you know, like rather than kind of like, okay, we're just going to grit our teeth, and because obviously as we know now in 2023, you know, that was a long road of, like, you know, it wasn't you know, flipping a light switch. You know, it was like, okay, we're back now. It was like gradually opening a door, and then it's like, is it even all the way open now? I don't think so. You know, it's like mostly, but you still see places shutting down and people getting COVID and tours getting canceled, you know, every day. That still happens, you know, and so, you know, I mean, I think that's all we can do as artists is like just keep doing our thing, you know, or whatever.
So much innovation, I would say, during that time.
Right.
The podcast, the live streams, you know, I would say the creative energy or the angst that it created. It certainly created that in me, like in the basement, shipping vinyl and recording at the studio. I recorded a solo record with Ryan and I did. It's just kind of like, I in some ways I miss that. A little bit. Yeah. Everything kind of went away.
There was something special about that time. It was like, you know, again, just to shout out our executive director, Jeff. It was like we had to lay off a lot of people during that time. And he was out there, he was emptying the trash cans and stuff. You know, I mean, like it was like, there was like 4 of us who worked here, you know, at that time. So it was like, you know, and we came close to shutting down like a lot of other venues, you know what I mean? And as you know, people out there may or may not know, COVID literally started in Kirkland in the United States. So like it was ground zero for like the first cases of COVID.
About that.
So yeah, and we've said this before, but we were the first theater actually like in the country to shut down, because Jeff's wife's an ER nurse, and she knew before everyone else knew. Anyway, all that to say, you know, hopefully, I mean, we're on the other side of it now, or we're crossing the river, or whatever the metaphor is. But what's next for you guys? You got a single that came out a couple months ago, I think, Gold, and working on new music now and touring a bit, or what's next for you guys?
Yeah, so a couple shows with Brett Dennen here on the West Coast, which is going to be awesome. New record in the can. We have we've put out 2 singles, I think. So High and Dry, which was a Radiohead cover, is a Radiohead cover.
Yes.
And then a song called Gold, and then we have a song called Everything to Me coming out April 21st. But man, 11 songs I think done. Kind of album title to be announced. To be determined.
You gotta ask that guy.
Yeah, Eli.
Gotta ask Eli.
But yeah, I mean, man, really proud of the work that we did. It was all kind of like a Nashville record. Got got busy last March with this producer, Owen Lewis, and everything, it just kind of came out really rad, came really quick. I sat on a couch like this and sang my vocals and
fun.
Like go home and just go there for a couple hours.
I can't do that. Sit down. How do you sit down and sing? You like it? That's the vibe. Some people, they'll come over, I'm tracking vocals, and they're like, oh, I'm going to sit down. I'm like, I don't know how you do that, but you can do it, huh?
It kind of seems, again, it's like that protection aspect. Like, does it feel comfortable? Does it feel right? If there's something that feels kind of high stress, like in a vocal booth, it's all dark, I'm all by myself.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that as much.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I need sunlight. I need
whatever works for you. It is all about, I mean, what frame of mind you're in, you know, because especially when you're trying to be vulnerable and, you know, get all that emotion out, you know, those little things like that matter. Are you comfortable right now? Can you hear yourself? Are you, you know, like whatever, do you have everything you need? But yeah.
Dude, I love this so much, this conversation, but here's a thought that comes to mind is like, I don't know if you feel the same way, kind of like with the records you make and the work that you do, but like I feel like before I sit down, I know what I'm after, you know, in a way. Mm-hmm. So it's less. This is gonna sound awful. Less about kind of like capturing that moment, and more about like interpreting like what I feel like I'm trying to accomplish with the song.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I totally relate to that because I think one of the things I say is there's not one right answer in the studio. There's 100 right answers. Yeah. So like it's because it's all about communicating that feeling, right? So it's like it's the feeling that's the thing you're trying to transmute to to the people listening. It's like it's not all about he's got a killer voice and impressing people. It's like communicating that feeling. What is that feeling? Have you had that feeling? And I know I have that feeling, and that's the magic of it, and that's what you're trying to get across. So, and you kind of it's esoteric sometimes, but you kind of know it when you hear it, you know. And so that could be a number of things. It can get very like, maybe if I sit down for this one, or if I stand up, maybe I need to go outside or look out the window, or we need to change this or that or whatever. But
they had me lay down for a couple of takes. I had like dog hair all over my back. Which I'm not really a dog person, but we got it.
Right, but
it was like super chill and relaxed. Sitting wasn't quite there. We need to lay down.
Yeah, we needed to lay all the way down. I've heard of major. What was it? I mean, it might have been a Radiohead song that I was, because they were my favorite band for many years, but they I think it was probably one of theirs. You can definitely see Tom York laying on the ground doing a vocal. It's very dramatic. Speaking of people, dramatic artists, but yes, I have kept you too long already, and
dude, thank you for having me.
I'm really going to enjoy your show tonight. Looking forward to it, and thanks so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
If you want to go check out Tim and Ryan and Ivan and Alyosha's music, go to ivanandalyosha.com for tour dates, music, everything that has to do with their stuff, and check them out and give them a follow on social media. I'm assuming if you just search their name, you'll find it, and Instagram and all of those kind of things. So thanks again, and we will see you all next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for KPC Underground. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider supporting KPC at kpcenter.org/donate. Your generosity helps us keep this and other programs going at Kirkland Performance Center. Be sure to check out our website for the latest events coming up. And hey, we'd also love to hear from you. Please rate our podcast, like, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff. And if you have a specific question or an idea for a show, email us at podcast@kpcenter.org. Thanks for listening.